They say Gordon Ramsay's palate is an impenetrable fortress, a place where only Michelin-starred perfection is allowed to reside. But in the sweltering, chaotic heart of Manila Night Market, that fortress didn't just crack. It crumbled. This is a story of how the world's most feared food critic arrived with a smirk and left with newfound respect for the soul of Filipino street food. The neon lights of Quiapo Market flickered like a warning signal as Gordon Ramsay stepped out his black SUV, his face twisted in a familiar mask of skepticism. Around him, the air was thick with the scent of charcoal smoke, fermented vinegar, and the rhythmic clanging of heavy metal spatulas. To Gordon, this wasn't a culinary destination. It was a chaotic hazard he felt destined to critique. He stopped in front of a modest wooden cart where an elderly woman named Lola Rosa was flipping skewers of dark, marinated meat over an open flame. Gordon leaned in, his nose wrinkling as he gestured the grill with a look of genuine disbelief. "You're honestly telling me people pay for this charred mystery?" he asked, his voice dripping with signature British sarcasm. Lola Rosa didn't flinch at the cameras or the tall, boisterous man hovering over her workstation. She simply fanned the embers, sending a cloud of savory smoke directly into Gordon's face. He coughed, waving the air away, and pointed a finger at a bowl of Isaw barbecued chicken intestines. "It looks like a radiator hose that's been left in the gutter," he mocked loudly. The crowd gathered, sensing a confrontation, as Gordon continued his verbal assault on the humble street fare, calling presentation uninspired and the hygiene questionable at best. He turned to the camera, delivering a sharp monologue about how real cooking requires precision, not just a pile of offal and a bucket of hot coals. He was convinced this would be a disaster. "If you are so brave, Chef, why is your mouth still empty?" Lola Rosa asked in a quiet but firm voice, holding out a single skewer of Isaw dripping with a spicy vinegar glaze. The challenge hung in the humid air, thick and heavy. Gordon looked at the skewer, then at the defiant eyes of the woman who had spent 50 years perfecting it. With a dramatic sigh and a roll of his eyes to the viewers at home, Gordon took the skewer, bracing himself for what he assumed would be a rubbery, bitter nightmare. He took a hesitant bite, his teeth sinking to the charred exterior into the tender, smoky interior. Suddenly, the mocking expression on his face froze into a look of pure, unadulterated shock. The explosion of flavor was immediate. A complex symphony of salty soy, sweet calamansi, and a deep, earthy richness that he hadn't expected in a million years. The vinegar-dipping sauce cut through the fat with sharp, acidic brilliance that rivaled any gastrique he'd ever prepared in London. He chewed slowly, his eyes widening as the layers of flavor unfolded. Silence fell over the market as Gordon Ramsay, the man who had dismantled the egos of 1,000 chefs, stood perfectly still in the middle of the street. He took another bite, then another, stripping the skewer clean until only the wood remained. The snarky comments he had prepared seemed to evaporate into the Manila heat, replaced by a humbling realization. "The balance of the marinade it's extraordinary," he muttered, almost to himself, as he looked back at the bubbling vat of sauce. He realized that the mystery meat he had mocked was actually a masterclass in texture and seasoning. The smoke wasn't just a byproduct. It was a vital, deliberate ingredient that provided profound, woody depth to the dish. Gordon reached into his pocket, pulled out a stack of bills, and placed them on the counter, but he wasn't done yet. He asked Lola Rosa for a bowl of palate, the infamous fertilized duck egg that serves as the ultimate test for any visiting traveler. He had mocked this specifically in his intro, calling it nature's biggest mistake for the camera. As he cracked the shell and sipped the warm, savory broth from within, his skepticism was replaced by a look of genuine culinary intrigue. He found the broth to be a rich, concentrated poultry consommé, deeper and more flavorful than many French stocks he had spent days simmering. It was a humbling lesson in looking past the exterior to find the soul. He spent the next 3 hours moving from stall to stall, no longer mocking, but asking questions with the curiosity of a first-year apprentice. He tried Sisig, marveling at the crunch of the pig's face and the citrusy pop of the calamansi. The man who came to criticize had stayed to learn, captivated by the ingenuity of Filipino no-waste cooking. As the sun began to rise over the Manila skyline, Gordon stood with a greasy paper plate in hand, sharing a laugh with a group of local workers. He turned back to the camera, his tone completely transformed from the beginning of the night. "I came here thinking I knew everything about flavor," he admitted, looking genuinely moved by the experience. "But the truth is," he continued, gesturing to the busy market behind him, "there's more heart and technical balance in these streets than in half the fine dining rooms in Europe." He acknowledged that his earlier mockery was born of ignorance, a rare admission for a man whose brand was built on being an untouchable authority in the kitchen. Gordon Ramsay left Quiapo Market that morning not just as a world-famous chef, but as a student of a culture he had once dismissed. He proved that even the toughest critic can be softened by a perfect skewer and a mother's secret recipe. In the end, the food didn't need his approval. He was the one who needed its grace.